There is a specific frequency of silence that settles in a room when you realize that something is over, even though no one has said the words. It is not the sharp, ringing silence of a door slamming shut, nor is it the heavy, suffocating silence of an argument. It is something far more ghostly. It is the silence of a drift. It is the quiet accumulation of unreturned energy, the slow fading of a signal that used to be strong. And for you, the quiet one, this silence is not empty. It is deafening. It is a crowded room filled with everything that should have been said but wasn't. You know this feeling better than anyone. You are the person who notices the shift in the air before the storm breaks. You are the one who feels the temperature drop in a relationship weeks before the other person even admits they are cold. You have spent your life tuning yourself to the emotional frequencies of others, becoming a seismograph for tremors that no one else seems to feel. And because of this deep, observant sensitivity, you are often the one left holding the memory of the connection long after the connection itself has severed. You are the keeper of the echoes. This is not a role you asked for. It is not a job title you applied for. It is simply a byproduct of how you love, and more importantly, how you pay attention. While the world rushes forward, desperate for the next distraction, the next dopamine hit, the next new person, you have a tendency to linger. You stand in the doorway of the past, looking back into the room, wondering why the lights were turned off so abruptly. You wonder where the love went. You wonder if you are the only one who remembers that it existed at all. There is a profound loneliness in being the one who remembers. It feels like walking through a museum where you are both the curator and the only visitor. You walk past the exhibits of your history. Here is the text message that made you feel seen for the first time in years. Here is the coffee shop where you laughed until your ribs ached. Here is the song that, for 3 weeks, belonged only to the two of you. You look at these artifacts, these fossils of intimacy, and you feel the weight of their reality. But when you look outside, the other person, the co-author of this history, is walking around as if none of it happened. They have moved on with a terrifying ease. They have rewritten the narrative, or perhaps they have simply deleted the file, and you are left standing there holding the evidence. This is the burden of the unspoken goodbye. A spoken goodbye, as painful as it is, has a shape. It has edges. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It is a wound, yes, but a wound that can be stitched. You can point to it and say, this is where it ended, this is why. But the unspoken goodbye is a mist. It is a fog that rolls in and never quite lifts. It is the friend who slowly stopped replying, the lover who turned into a stranger without a fight, the family member who drifted into estrangement through sheer apathy. When there is no closing ceremony, the mind struggles to lower the flag. You find yourself trapped in a loop of analysis. You become a detective of your own heartbreak, combing through the archives of your behavior, looking for the clue, the trigger, the moment where the timeline fractured. You ask yourself the questions that keep you awake at 3 a.m. Was I too much? Was I not enough? Did I miss a sign? Did I imagine the depth of the connection? This questioning is a form of torture, but psychologically, it is an attempt at control. If you can figure out why it happened, you can prevent it from happening again. If you can find the logic in the loss, you can protect yourself from future pain. But the hard truth, the one that sits heavy in your chest, is that often there is no logic. There is no grand reason. Sometimes people just leave. Sometimes the energy just runs out. But for you, the quiet observer, this lack of reason is unacceptable. You value depth. You value meaning. You treat people with a reverence that borders on the sacred. When you let someone in, you do not do it lightly. You clear space for them. You rearrange the furniture of your soul to make it comfortable. So when they leave without so much as a wave, without acknowledging the space they occupied, it feels like a violation. It feels like they have walked through your house with muddy shoes and left the front door wide open, and you are the one who has to clean up the mud. You are the one who has to get up, walk to the door, and close it against the wind. There is a specific psychology to this inability to let go of the unspoken. It is often rooted in a deep sense of responsibility. Somewhere along the way, perhaps in your childhood, you learned that you were the emotional regulator. You were the one who had to make sure everyone else was okay. You were the peacekeeper, the listener, the stabilizer. You learned that relationships were fragile things that needed to be held with two hands. And if something broke, it was likely because you weren't holding it steady enough. So now, as an adult, when a connection dissolves, your instinct is not to blame the other person for their carelessness. Your instinct is to blame yourself for your failure to sustain it. You internalize the silence. You interpret their absence as a commentary on your worth. You think, if I were more interesting, they would have stayed. If I were less complicated, they would have explained. You carry the silence like a stone in your pocket. You touch it throughout the day, a reminder of what is missing. But let us look closer at this stone. Let us look closer at what you are actually holding on to. Are you holding on to the person, or are you holding on to the potential of who they could have been? Are you mourning the reality of the relationship or the fantasy of its future? The unspoken goodbye is a fertile ground for idealization because they never gave you a reason, because they never showed you their cruelty or their incompatibility in a final confrontation. They remain frozen in your mind as perfect. They remain the what if. They remain the unfinished symphony. And the human brain hates unfinished things. We are wired for closure. We are wired for the complete picture. When a song cuts off before the final chord, our brain keeps singing it, trying to resolve the melody. You are singing the final chord for people who have already left the concert hall. This is where the exhaustion comes from. It is not just the sadness of loss, it is the fatigue of performance. You are performing a relationship that no longer exists. You are having conversations with them in your head. You are explaining your feelings to a ghost. You are drafting text messages that you will never send, trying to find the perfect combination of words that will unlock their silence, that will make them turn around and say, I see you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave. But the ghost does not answer. The ghost cannot answer. You must understand that your capacity to feel deeply is not a flaw. The fact that you care about the ending is not a sign of weakness. It is a testament to the value you placed on the beginning. In a world that treats people like disposable content, like commodities to be consumed and discarded, your grief is a form of resistance. Your refusal to forget is an act of honor. You are honoring the shared humanity that existed between you, even if they are not. However, there is a difference between honoring a memory and being held hostage by it. There comes a time when the quiet one must learn a new kind of silence, not the silence of waiting, not the silence of endurance, but the silence of release. You have spent so long holding the space for them to return, keeping the seat warm, keeping the candle burning in the window. You have been so afraid that if you stop remembering, if you stop hurting, then the relationship will truly die. You fear that your pain is the only thing keeping the connection alive. And you are right. Your pain is the only thing keeping it alive. But it is keeping it alive as a zombie, not as a living, breathing thing. It is a reanimated corpse of a connection that feeds on your energy and gives nothing back. To let go of the unspoken goodbye, you have to accept a terrifying premise. You may never know why. You may never get the apology. You may never get the validation that you were right, that you were good, that you mattered. You have to learn to validate yourself in the vacuum. You have to learn to look at the space where they used to be and say, I was real. My love was real. And that is enough. This is the hardest work you will ever do. It requires you to override your instinct for resolution. It requires you to sit with the discomfort of the open loop. It is like reading a book where the last 10 pages have been torn out. You can spend the rest of your life trying to write the ending yourself, trying to guess what the author intended, or you can close the book, take a deep breath, and put it back on the shelf. Putting it on the shelf does not mean you didn't love the story. It does not mean the characters weren't important. It just means the story is over. You are tired. I can hear it in the way your thoughts slow down at night. You are tired of being the storage facility for everyone else's emotional baggage. You are tired of being the one who cares more. There is a resentment growing beneath your sadness, a quiet anger that asks, why am I the only one carrying this? That anger is good. That anger is a sign of life. It is your self-respect waking up from its slumber. It is the part of you that knows you deserve to be met, not just remembered. You deserve a goodbye that looks you in the eye. You deserve a hello that stays. But until that arrives, you must learn to be the custodian of your own peace. You must stop haunting yourself. Think of the energy you pour into these echoes. Think of the hours you spend dissecting the past. Imagine if you took that energy, that fierce, loyal, attentive energy, and poured it back into yourself. Imagine if you treated yourself with the same tenderness you offer to the people who left. Imagine if you listened to your own needs with the same intensity you used to listen to their silence. You would be unstoppable. You would be whole. The process of releasing the unspoken is not a singular event. It is not a ceremony where you burn a letter and suddenly feel free. It is a practice. It is a daily decision to stop looking for them in the crowd. It is a gentle redirection of your thoughts when they wander back to the what-ifs. It is the discipline of not checking on them, not asking about them, not touching the bruise to see if it still hurts. It is learning to trust that what is meant for you will not require you to hold it so tightly that your hands cramp. What is meant for you will not leave you with a mouthful of unsaid words. What is meant for you will have the courage to speak. But you, in your quiet wisdom, you know that life is rarely that simple. You know that people are messy and damaged and often operating from their own unhealed wounds. The person who left without a word was likely running from themselves, not from you. They were avoiding the mirror that you held up to them. Your depth was too much for their shallowness. Your sincerity was too much for their facade. They did not leave because you were insufficient. They left because you were substantial. And so you sit in the quiet. The room is still silent, but the quality of the silence is changing. It is becoming less about absence and more about presence, your presence. You are beginning to fill the room with your own essence rather than the lack of theirs. You are beginning to realize that you are not just a vessel for memories. You are the creator of new ones. There is a grief that must be felt, certainly. You must grieve the disrespect of the silence. You must grieve the loss of the potential. Cry for it. Let the tears come hot and fast. Let them wash away the dust of the waiting, but do not build a home in the grief. Do not let the sadness decide to live there. You are a traveler, not a statue. As you begin to move forward, you will notice that the echoes get quieter. They do not disappear completely. We are, after all, made of the people we have met, but they stop controlling the narrative. They become background noise, a soft hum of history that reminds you of where you have been, but does not dictate where you are going. You will start to recognize the difference between those who can meet you in the deep end and those who only want to splash in the shallows. You will become more protective of your inner world. You will not give the key to your archives to just anyone. You will learn that your attention is a currency and you have been spending it on ghost towns. There is a beauty in this evolution. The quiet one becomes the wise one. The sensitivity that once felt like a curse, like a raw nerve exposed to the wind, becomes your superpower. You can still sense the shift in the air. You can still feel the tremors, but now you know how to steady yourself. You know that just because the ground is shaking, it doesn't mean you have to fall. You hold the echoes, yes, but you are learning to put them down. Imagine walking to the edge of a great calm lake. In your hands, you hold the stones of the unspoken, the names, the dates, the confused silences. One by one, you toss them into the water. Watch the ripples. Watch them expand and then fade. The water accepts them. The water swallows them. And then the surface returns to glass. The water is your mind. The stones are the past. The stillness is yours to keep. It is important to acknowledge that some goodbyes will never be spoken. Some doors will remain forever ajar in the hallways of your memory. And that is okay. You can walk past an open door without entering it. You can acknowledge the room without living in it. You can forgive the person for leaving and forgive yourself for staying too long without ever speaking a word to them. Forgiveness, in this sense, is not about exonerating them. It is about freeing you. It is the final exhale after holding your breath for years. You are coming back to yourself now. Can you feel it? It is a subtle shift, like the first hint of dawn after a long, dark winter. The colors are returning to the world. The food tastes like something again. The music makes you want to move, not just remember. You are discovering that you are still here. You survived the silence. You survived the drift. You are the one who stayed. You stayed with yourself. And that is the most important relationship you will ever have. The one who will never leave without a goodbye is you. The one who hears every unspoken word is you. The one who has been waiting for your love this whole time is you. So speak to yourself with the kindness you withheld for the ghosts. Tell yourself the things you wanted to hear from them. I am proud of you. I value you. I am not going anywhere. Fill the silence with your own voice. It is a beautiful voice. It has been quiet for too long, listening to the static of others. Let it sing. Let it break. Let it heal. You are the quiet one, yes, but you are also the strong one. You are the deep one. You are the one who feels the rotation of the earth, while everyone else is just walking on it. Do not trade that depth for anything. Do not harden your heart just because others were careless with it. The world needs your softness. The world needs your memory. But you need your peace. So, take a breath, a deep, conscious breath. Inhale the present moment. Exhale the echoes. Let them drift away like smoke. They do not belong to you anymore. They belong to the wind. You are here. You are whole. You are ready to begin again. And in the end, the only closure you ever truly needed was the sound of your own heart, beating steadily, promising you that life continues, that love returns, and that silence is not an end, but a space for something new to grow. The echoes are fading now. The room is quiet. But this time, it is a peaceful quiet. It is the silence of a morning before the world wakes up. It is the silence of a blank page. It is yours. And in this new silence, you begin to notice the small, quiet mercies that you had previously overlooked. When your ears are no longer straining to hear a voice that isn't there, they become attuned to the symphony of the immediate, the way the light hits the floorboards in the afternoon, the specific rhythm of rain against the window pane, the sound of a friend's laughter, unburdened by history, offering nothing but the joy of the present moment. These are not grand gestures. They are not the sweeping dramatic arcs of romance or heartbreak. They are the humble, steady pulse of existence. And for a long time, they were not enough for you. You wanted the storm. You wanted the intensity. You equated love with a kind of beautiful suffering, believing that if it didn't hurt, it wasn't real. But now, as you stand in the calm, you realize that peace is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of clarity. You start to rebuild your trust in your own perception. This is a crucial step. For so long, the gaslighting of the unspoken goodbye made you doubt your reality. Did I imagine it? You asked. Was I crazy? But as the fog lifts, you see the truth with sharp, distinct edges. You didn't imagine the connection. You didn't invent the chemistry. It was real. It happened. But just because something was real does not mean it was permanent. Just because it was intense does not mean it was sustainable. You learn to separate the validity of your experience from the outcome of the relationship. The ending does not invalidate the beginning. The silence does not erase the song. It just means the song is over. And learning to applaud the performance and then leave the theater is the ultimate act of maturity. There is a lightness that comes with this realization. You stop carrying the heavy, dusty ledger of what should have been. You stop trying to balance the accounts of emotional debt. You realize that some people are simply unable to pay what they owe, not because they are evil, but because they are bankrupt. They do not have the emotional currency to afford a proper goodbye. They do not have the courage in their wallet. And you are rich in courage. You are wealthy in depth. You have so much to give, and for a long time you were pouring gold into a drain. Now you are learning to invest it. You are learning to give your energy to people and pursuits that offer a return, not necessarily in kind, but in respect, in presence, in reciprocity. The quiet one begins to speak a new language. It is a language of boundaries. It is a language of self-preservation. You learn that saying no is a complete sentence. You learn that walking away is not an act of cruelty, but an act of self-respect. You learn that you do not have to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, especially someone who wouldn't even strike a match for you. This transformation is not loud. It doesn't happen with a shout or a public declaration. It happens in the quiet moments of your day. It happens when you choose to read a book instead of checking their profile. It happens when you choose to go for a walk instead of spiraling into a memory. It happens when you meet someone new, and instead of instantly trying to merge your soul with theirs, you sit back, you observe, you wait to see if they are safe. You wait to see if they are consistent. You are no longer a seismograph waiting for a tremor. You are the mountain. Let the earth shake around you. You will not move. You will find that your capacity for love has not diminished. It has purified. You still love deeply, but you no longer love desperately. You still feel intensely, but you are no longer a slave to your feelings. You have become the master of your own emotional house. You decide who gets to come in. You decide who has to stay on the porch. And you decide who is never invited back. This is the gift of the unspoken goodbye. It forces you to become your own closure. It forces you to grow up emotionally speaking. It strips away the fantasy that someone else holds the key to your happiness. It hands the key back to you and says, unlock it yourself. And you do, slowly, clumsily at first, but then, with growing confidence, you unlock the doors to your own life. You rediscover passions you had neglected. You reconnect with friends you had drifted from. You start to make plans that don't depend on anyone else's approval or presence. You start to build a life that feels like yours. The echoes will always be there in the distance. You are a person who remembers, and that will never change. You will always be the one who remembers the anniversary of a day that no longer matters to anyone else. You will always be the one who gets a lump in your throat when a certain song plays in the supermarket. But these moments will no longer drop you to your knees. They will just be passing clouds. You will acknowledge them. There is that memory, and you will let them float by. You are becoming a vessel of grace. Grace for the ones who left, because they knew no better. Grace for yourself, because you loved so hard. Grace for the timing of your life, which often makes no sense until you look back at it years later. You are the quiet one who holds the echoes, but you are no longer defined by them. You are defined by what you do with the silence after the echo fades. You are defined by the music you choose to play next. So play something beautiful. Play something brave. The world is listening. The silence is waiting. And you, finally, are ready to speak. The weight is gone. The door is closed. The air is clear. You are free.